Okay, good afternoon or good evening, guys. This is discussion E for you all. We're discussing the use of cannabis and link to dementia. So let me enlighten everybody about this subject for discussion E. Please join me in tonight's discussion E. Let's delve into this subject with the link between dementia and cannabis use. So here we go. Let me set these up for me. Be right with you guys. Have to set my notes up. Okay, folks. All right. So the text refers to a study that found individuals who had emergency department visits or hospitalizations due to cannabis use were at a significantly higher risk of being diagnosed with dementia within 5 years. Specifically, though, these individuals had a 23% to 72% greater risk compared to those hospitalized for other reasons for the general population. The study conducted in Ontario, Canada, followed over 6 million adults aged 45 and older from 2008 to 2022. It highlighted that long-term and heavy cannabis use might contribute to memory problems and brain structure changes associated with dementia. Okay. The researchers emphasized that while the study observed an association does not prove concession, they also noted that the hold on. Okay, that the findings were specific to severe patterns of cannabis use requiring acute medical care and did not account for less severe usage patterns. Potential mechanisms suggest include direct effects on the brain structure or indirect effects through increased risk of conditions like high blood pressure, head trauma, depression, and social isolation. The study was a population-based retrospective cohort analysis conducted in Ontario, Canada, using health administrative data from 2008 to 2021, with follow-up until 2022. It included over 6 million adults aged 45 or older who had no prior diagnosis of dementia. Researchers identified individuals who had acute care encounters, emergency department visits, or hospitalizations due to cannabis use using, give me one second, please. Separate. International classifications of diseases. Coding these individuals were compared to 3 groups: those with all cause acute care visits, the general population, and individuals with acute care due to alcohol use. The study employed cause significant adjusted hazard models to assess the risk of new dementia diagnosis among those groups. Key findings included a significant increase in acute care visits for cannabis use over the study period, particularly among older adults. The researchers also noted that while the study observed an association, it did not establish causation. The text refers to a study investigating whether individuals who had emergency department visits or hospitalizations due to cannabis use are at increased risk of being diagnosed with dementia. This study, conducted in Ontario, Canada, analyzed health data from over 6 million adults aged 45 or older between 2008 2021. It found that individuals with acute care encounters due to cannabis use were at significantly higher risk of developing dementia within 5 years compared to those with all-cause acute care visits or the general population. Key findings include a 1.5-fold increased risk of dementia compared to individuals with all-cause acute care, a 3.9-fold increase compared to the general population. The absolute risk of dementia diagnosis was 5.0 for cannabis related acute care 33.6% for all causes acute care, and 1.3% for the general population. The study also highlighted that while cannabis use severe enough to require acute care associated with elevated dementia risk does not establish causation factors such as changes in the brain structure, high blood pressure, head trauma, depression, and social isolation may contribute to this increased risk. Okay. The study findings suggest several implications for cannabis policies. Public health awareness. Governments and health organizations may need to increase public awareness about the potential risk of hold on, folks. Heavy cannabis use, especially among older adults. This could include educational campaigns highlighting the association between severe cannabis use and dementia risk. Okay. Regulation and monitoring. Policymakers might consider stricter regulations on cannabis products, including potency limits and clearer labeling about potential health risks, monitoring patterns of cannabis use in vulnerable populations could also be prioritized. Healthcare interventions. The study underscores the importance of healthcare interventions for individuals with acute care encounters due to cannabis use, early screenings for cognitive decline, and supports hold on, gotta get these apart. Okay. For reducing cannabis dependency could be integrated into healthcare systems. Research findings. The findings highlight the need for further research to understand the mechanisms behind the association between cannabis use and dementia. Policymakers could allocate funding to studies exploring less severe patterns of cannabis use and their long-term effects. Policy adjustments. As cannabis legalization expands globally, policymakers may need to revisit existing laws to ensure they address the potential long-term health impacts of cannabis use, particularly in older populations. These implications aim to balance the benefits of cannabis legalization with the need to mitigate potential health risk. Let me know if you need further information. Okay, folks, so that's it for tonight. And we'll see everybody tomorrow for shows. Till then, Gator Wellness, take care, folks. Have a good evening.